Good afternoon. This is Krishnan from CA Institute of Quality. Thank you for your time. We will begin the webinar in a couple of minutes time. Stay connected. Am I audible? Can someone confirm? Yes, thank you. So we will start. I think few more are expected to join. Anyway, we will start in another a minute's time. So once again, good afternoon, and we will begin the webinar. First of all, thank you for your time. The webinar is scheduled in 3 different topics. Number one, quickly discuss on the assessment process. Number two, on some of the best practices which the assessment team can look for. And third, some aspects by which the applicant organization can take this assessment for enhancing the overall effectiveness of the assessment. Around 1 hour, and maybe we can take some 10 to 15 minutes time for any clarifications or any suggestions. So to begin with, once again, thank you. This is a common session for both the assessors as well as the Godrej units. So some of the specific messages we will specifically talk, whether it is pertaining to applicant or pertaining to assessors. We will definitely, it will be beneficial for the entire assessment process. So whether it is applicant or assessors, this will add value. See, the first step is basically, of course, it is over. Report has been submitted. Team formation also have completed. Now we are in the stage where the key factors identification as well as, and post that, key factor discussion with the applicant. In the key factor discussion, points to be noted are primarily on ensuring that this discussion, the 2 hour or 2.5 hour, the con call, the effectively we are using to understand the business context rather than using that particular platform and starting the assessment. It is not an assessment, it is only an understanding session. And also suggest to understand some of the key data points, reports, and the facts and figures the applicant organization have used in order to make the strategy of the organization, so that the assessors can also go through those documents. Most of them, if it is available in public, you please refer that. If it is not, if whatever possible, please provide the data points, the details which the organization have used to prepare this strategy. That will give a better understanding of what inputs the organization is being collected and what inputs they are using, and the comprehensiveness of the entire process can be seen much more holistically. And during that, any clarifications required, please also ask. See key strategies of the organization, whatever developed based on these inputs, and what all the initiatives and success measures could be the focus of the key factor discussion. And at any point in time, whether it is during key factor discussion or post key factor discussion on any points which the assessment team requires some clarity, at each teleconference outcome, you can indicate what needs to be collected further from the applicant or what needs clarification from the applicant. Not necessarily everything require a document. A dialogue with applicant at that stage will help to proceed the assessment faster. So at the end of each telecon, we also recommend, in case if there is a need for any points to clarify or any specific data or information required to collect from the applicant, please do in touch with the applicant coordinator and then use that data for carrying out the assessment further. And then obviously after the key factor discussion, the key factor finalization and the individual assessments as per the milestone. Unlike the CI Exim Bank award assessment, here the milestones are based on the assessment date already finalized. So all the units which is applying for this program, the assessment date based on the availability of the leadership team at the respective applicants organization, the dates have been finalized, which has been communicated to, and let us work back to ensure that we are spending quality time at the same time within the overall schedule. So request senior assessor to work back each of the milestones according to the final date which is already confirmed. Give quality time. At the same time, it could be a slightly a shorter cycle. So need to keep that in mind. Festival season also is coming. Considering all this, you may have to schedule the assessment, including the key factor discussion with the applicant. So my suggestion is at least the key factor discussion complete as quickly as possible so that the individual assessors can start their assessment and complete the activities. While we are not using the award management module this time because of customization issues, the process you can use, the different milestone sequence you can use as what is mentioned in the award process. So after key factor discussion, individual assessment can still start with 2, 5, 6 and 9A, which you will communicate further since in the absence of the award management module, we will send this sequence once again to all the assessment team. But the assessment team can start from strategy, moving on to the processes, the customer results, and the key business result. Once the business results assessment is over, you can also look at the resources, the people side, as well as the associated results. And finally, we can look at the criteria of one which is leadership, and criteria 8, the society results. The same sequence can be followed and the same teleconference schedules can be maintained. 3 teleconference, 1 after completing. I'm talking about the teleconference after the key factor discussions or initial discussions. The first teleconference can be after completing criteria 2, 5, 6 and 9A. Second teleconference can be after completing the individual assessment of criteria 3, 4, 7 and 9B. The third teleconference can be after criteria 1 as well as criteria 8 assessment. The senior assessor, like in the CII Exim Bank award assessment, will allocate criteria ownership, and accordingly the individuals will take ownership of that criteria for collation and leading the consensus discussions. The process what is going to be followed is exactly same, except that the time, the schedules are different and the AMS is not in use. The rest everything is same. So regarding the position report, since you already have it, the same sequence we have followed. The format remains same. 75-page the document describing practices and results of 1A to 9B. In addition to that, the organization profile of maximum 5 pages. Key factors of 1 to 2 pages. The organization profile, key factors, result overview, index and abbreviations, whatever we are using, those sheets are excluded or in addition to the 75-page document. So in a normal scenario, you can expect around 84 to 85-page document. And any deviation in this, since it is internal assessment, will be done by the corporate team of Godrej Business Excellence function. Suggested sequence, any changes, anything is seen, and finally it is approved by the Godrej Corporate Business Excellence function. So the team formation, there are 3 external assessors and 3 internal assessors. 3 assessors are from different groups of the Godrej, and in this particular case, a few would have been experienced in the assessment, but majority would be doing the assessment for the first time. So I'm sure the experienced assessors who was part of the external the team, the external assessors, will ensure that the necessary handholding is done at different stages of the assessment. While the business perspective, the functional experience and their knowledge on the model can be brought from the internal assessors. In case of anywhere, if the experience is required to be mentored, that the added, please ensure that the external assessors are handholding at appropriate stages of the assessment. And the assessment schedule is as circulated earlier. It is different for different units, starting from the as early as the Godrej construction, which is just 2 weeks away, and some are at the first week of October, and 1 or 2 are at towards the end of October. So follow the same schedule, because I'm made to understand that okay, the corporate leaders' time, travel, all those things have been blocked already based on the agreed schedule. So it is highly unlikely that we will be able to do any changes in these dates. So ensure that let us work together to complete the assessment as per this schedule only. Assessment duration, it is same as the Exim Bank assessment. The 2-day consensus, 3-day on-site assessment, and 1 day post consensus, and in case if the team required 1 more day extra, it has to be planned, and the entire report has to be completed by end of the assessment and submitted to CII. The one which we have seen as the slightly a concern in the other assessment, that is based on the experience we are suggesting. If you are not unable to complete at the end of the site visit schedule, it is a very difficult task for the senior assessor to consolidate further inputs, get clarifications from different assessors, and make the final report. So ensure that as a team we are completing a very comprehensive report before leaving the site after the assessment. And it is to have a better coordination. It is also suggested to have one coordinator from the assessment team within the Godrej team, and so that anything internally can be routed through him, any arrangements or anything is required, even some clarification on the corporate policies, corporate guidelines. So it's always beneficial to have one coordinator from the assessment team for the internal part. This is not connected to the applicant spoke. Applicant spoke is certainly different. This coordinator is part of the assessment team. And at this stage, I will take some 2 questions which is already there, which I will go through, then clarify. The one point on where is the result overview section. Result overview section is part of the document. So document will consist of the OP, the organization profile, key business factors, strength, the practices of 1A to 5B or 5E, then the result overview page, then results of 6A to 9B. That is the normal thing. Same sequence will be followed. And scoring templates, scoring sheet, as well as the individual the strength and OFI sheets, which has already been circulated. along with a document describing on-site assessment guidelines and teleconference guidelines. So this has been mailed already along with a confidentiality agreement note. The confidentiality agreement note is applicable only for the external assessors. Internally, since they are part of the team, so it is nominated by the group, it may not be required. In case if you are not in receipt of the closing meeting presentation, the individual strength and OFI, the sheet, scoring sheet, please do revert. We will once again mail to all as a set. So as I said, the assessor coordinator, and I think already there is a step taken for nominating the assessor coordinator. So that point is already taken care. So we will continue. The assessment templates and reports. Key factors: individual assessment, collated reports, pre-site visit report, post-site visit report. Especially on the post-site visit report, the feedback presentation, leadership report is a one-page report, free flow report, executive summary, strength and OFIs, and finally the scoring template. These are all the documents which is required or as an outcome which is required. Sorry for the delay. We were talking about the reports. The first few are templates, and the site visit report is only an extension of the strength and OFI's template. And in addition to that, there is a closing meeting presentation with the PPT has already been circulated. And the change which we have made in the PPT, which is for the CA Exim Bank assessment, also brought into this. Rather than going by the criteria-wise strength and OFIs for the closing meeting presentation, we are going by the business value chain from the high-level aspirations like vision, mission, or values to the strategies, and that strategy, how are we realizing through various initiatives and process, and finally, what is the result we have seen with respect to each stakeholder. So this will be more aligned to the entire business value chain than the 9 boxes of the model. So the strength and OFIs will be connected to the elements of the value chain, which will be directly attributable to some departments' functions, as well as it will be easy for the applicant to understand what action to be taken and where to be taken. However, overall, definitely it will be within the requirements of the 9 boxes, the criteria leadership, strategy, people, the criteria 4, 5, and up to 9 will be addressed through the report. Instead of following the sequence of 1 to 9, we are following the sequence of the business value chain. So the focus will be how the vision to realization is progressing and how is it aligned to the various stakeholders' requirements. And one-page report, which is the leadership report, which will be giving very high-level feedback to the CEO and the top leadership team on what the assessment team see in the organization as few of the highlights, both as strength as well as the opportunities. Again, it is a free flow document without having any constraints of any criteria or sub-criteria. It is more of a business report. An executive summary, since these two are aligned to the business at a higher level, this executive summary will continue to be on the criteria-wise strength and opportunities. And finally, detailed strength and OFI report for each of the sub-criteria elements. Coming to these milestones, the milestones has to be decided mutually, working back from the site assessment dates, giving quality time and ensuring that it is spread uniformly so that people can spend time even with their professional engagement and complete the task. Irrespective of whether you are a criteria leader for one particular criteria or more than one, all assessors are mandatorily required to complete assessment of 32 sub-criteria. The sequence can be followed as per the sequence explained initially, like starting from criteria 2, moving to criteria 5, then 6 and 9A, which once again we will send that sequence to all assessors, which is part of the earlier AMS and what we have experienced through the multiple assessments. And the consensus telecons, 3 consensus telecon apart from the telecon discussions with applicant on the key factors, 3 telecons. And in case if the team feels that we need to schedule 1 more or 2 more, depending upon the mutual agreement, you can do so, and definitely facility is available. You just factor the time accordingly. Minimum 3 we are suggesting, but more than that it is based on the team's convenience. And all the teleconference, the senior assessor can write to Mr. Deep for a schedule. We will organize for that. Your convenient time, please indicate. And please ensure that, okay, or rather you please take it in a way that, okay, it is time is available, whatever schedule the team is confirming, we will organize a call accordingly. And in case if the respective whatever one particular telecon facility is available, not available, we will organize for another. So please ensure that don't wait for confirming the telecon based on the information from CII. Please ensure that you are communicating the schedule so that we are not having any clash of telecons. At the same time, within the team, whatever teleconference you are scheduling, please confirm within yourself that we will organize from CII, we will organize accordingly. So don't wait for a confirmation from CII on the schedule. We will make the teleconference facility available based on your timing. Only information is required to ensure that, okay, we are not having any clash of calls. Otherwise, it is CII's responsibility to ensure that the required telecons, that schedule is arranged. And at the end of each call teleconferences, the team can summarize few points where require some clarity or a discussion with the applicant coordinator. that senior assessor can have a quick call either immediately after the telecon or at a later stage, not delaying too much, but on a next day, seeking clarifications and that updating the team about the inputs received from the applicant coordinator, or it could including the reports. So one interaction required at the end of each teleconference if there are any points need further clarification. No need to wait for the on-site assessment to clarify those points. Anything which has to be clarified, which require, team feels that okay, it is a must for continuing the assessment, please continue, and we will ensure that the respective team gets the information from the applicant and the senior assessor will coordinate for that. And don't ask entire details, whatever it is very necessary, whatever it is important, critical for you to continue the assessment. So there will be many other points which need to have anyway time there during the on-site assessment. But some information without which it is very difficult to continue the assessment that impacts the entire assessment productivity. Such information please seek and the assessment team will provide information based on that. And site visit dates, the finalization anyway it is let the entire team member so please ensure that these dates are strictly followed. On-site planning and finalization, like the other assessments, the senior assessor and team will make a draft schedule based on the inputs received from the document as well as some inputs from the applicant coordinator. Make a draft schedule, circulate for the final inputs, and based on the input, wherever it is necessary, please modify and make it almost final, though there will be a review on the second day of the first and second day of consensus meeting. But in case if there are changes, please ensure that the changes are very minimal, not more than even 5%. One or two schedules can change based on the availability of the members, but to ensure that the assessment goes in a sequence as well as it goes smooth, try to eliminate the changes as minimum as possible. And in case if the applicant, some leadership team members are not available and that necessitates a change, please also accommodate. Because unless the leader, the functional leader is available, there will not be any the quality discussion. So ensure that any request coming from the applicant, which is important, and ensure that we are trying to accommodate wherever possible. I'm sure that most of the cases it will be possible, and in case if in any case if it is not possible because of certain reasons, please discuss and find an alternate with the coordinator. And also logistics arrangement quickly start so that the overall cost also can be controlled. On the on-site assessment, the format is 2-day consensus, 3-day on-site, and the 2-day for post-site visit consensus and reporting. And the first 2 days of on-site assessment will be the consensus meeting, physical consensus meeting. And in that, the first day, it is suggested to make a presentation from the applicant organization. And this can be done by 1 or 2 leaders. and maybe the applicant coordinator himself can do. This is not an interaction or a clarification. This is only a clarification session or an additional information session and not an assessment. Assessment will start on day 3 at the opening meeting, but this is primarily to aid the assessment team, support the assessment team with additional informations and some of the points which needs to be emphasized, clarified, can be given during the discussion. So this particular session, treat it as information sharing session for carrying out the consensus meeting and site visit planning rather than taking as an assessment. So this is applicable for both assessors and applicants. So request both assessors and applicant to ensure that this session is handled as a clarification session or additional information sharing session than assessment. So to that extent, it is not required to have all the leadership team present during the opening session, the opening presentation on day 1 of consensus. If the applicant coordinator himself can handle it, it's enough. Or if you want a support from 1 or 2 other leaders, he can choose to. But ensure that the minimum number of people are only available so that they can continue their work without any further disturbance. Minimal disturbance due to the assessment to the operations, daily operations is the one we have to look at. And once the opening meeting, the opening presentation by the applicant, which is primarily focusing on the business model once again, so you will get an opportunity to share that once again. The points which the applicant feels that it's required more elaboration and emphasize than given whatever in the document, and any development happen post the submission of the document, and some of the clarification points which was sought by the assessment team at different point in time, which was not given earlier, and this is a point at least we can share so that they can continue their consensus meeting without any issues. So once the presentation is over, the rest of the day will be only within the assessment team. They will continue their consensus meeting, and post consensus we'll also make the site visit questionnaire, site visit planning and finalization. Based on the consensus report, the team will also do a primary level scoring, which is the pre-site visit scoring, based on the observations what they have seen through the document and the limited interaction which they had. And finally, the site visit plan as finalized in discussion with the applicant coordinator. Please share it so that the team can continue based on that schedule. On the day 3, the opening meeting with all the members and leadership team. No need to present the corporate level presentation here because you have already made the presentation on the day 1 of the consensus meeting. In case if any of the critical points the leadership team want to emphasize further, whether any of the senior leadership member wanted to emphasize further on the business model, business strategy, key initiatives, performance, external factors, they can do so, they can explain, but otherwise no need to repeat the presentation what we have made already. So this, even based on the input received during the day 1 consensus meeting presentation, if the applicant coordinator feels that okay, certain points are to be emphasized by the leadership team, he can give the input to the leadership team and they can share further insights into that during this opening meeting. Once the opening meeting is over, it could be normally around an hour, not more than that. Then there will be interaction with the CEO, the business head, whatever the designation it is, the highest level officer. In most cases, it will be all business heads. In Godrej, the terminology. You will also have, subsequently, we'll have a discussion with the strategy and business planning team. And a quick facility tour, if your manufacturing facility is nearby, you can also have one quick facility tour. But if the manufacturing facility is not near to the corporate office, that visit can be done at a later stage when you are going for the planned assessment. But if it is very near to your corporate office, in most cases there are planned also within the campus, except few. This can be a quick facility tour can be organized. And the purpose of this visit is primarily to just familiarize with the organizational key products, process, and some of the facilities. No need to spend too much of time on debating, discussing on few points, which certainly will have subsequent sessions on all the departments, be it production, be it maintenance, be it quality, be it purchase. There will be subsequent sessions. So this particular facility tour, please use only for a quick understanding on the organizational operations. And by this, the day one, that means day one of the site visit, that means day 3 of the original, the total schedule. The the morning session would be over, and after lunch, you can start interaction with the respective departments based on the schedule already prepared. So the marketing function, finance function, HR function, which is more the corporate functions, can also be covered. And some of the key functions like purchase, production, quality, those are also can be covered either on that day or the next day based on the schedule finalized. Any outstation visits and assessments after the morning session, depending upon the logistics and travel requirements, people can depart. But the morning session, CEO session, business planning session is mandatory to be attended by all assessors. The splitting of the team is post those meetings, and even if you require based on the products and services, you can now have common interaction with the marketing team if necessary. But otherwise, the team can split into different groups, ideally 3 groups. And if the team feels that okay, 2 teams would be a better combination, and we still have enough quality time to spend at each interaction stages, then you do so. Ensure that we are spending quality time for discussions and not hurrying, at the same time adhering to time. So that means require a plan and go as per that. If the team is balanced, then you can even have 3 teams so that you will get more time in each discussions. But if the overall unit size is small and not required to have the 3 team split, you can do it in 2 3 days by 2 teams. So it's left to the team to decide what is appropriate. The assessors are experienced in assessing such scenarios, and they will be able to plan whether it is required 2 teams or 3 teams. And at the end of each day, this another change we are bringing this year is, okay, of course it is started partially last year in the CA Exim Bank. This year we are planning to put it much more as an institutional process, ensuring that at the end of each assessment day, a very brief, it could be more of an informal brief to the applicant coordinator. What are the major areas where the assessment team feels that, okay, additional information, if available, can be provided, and based on the need, if any additional interaction need to be planned, that also can be scheduled at an appropriate time based on the convenience of both assessors and applicant. So this briefing is very important. Every day at the end of the assessment day, before closing, please ensure that you are giving some brief either to the applicant coordinator. If coordinator is not available, some of the senior members who has been assigned this task, or your the guide who is along with you for the assessment can also be the person to brief. So this is the structure, on-site assessment, and any additional information, data verification needed, please plan an additional slot in the day 3. Please keep an open slot in the schedule so that any interaction which has not completed or not happened, or something is envisaged as a new discussion schedule, can be slotted there without affecting the overall schedule. So please keep an open slot on day 3 of the on-site assessment to, or day 2, whatever you feel most the appropriate schedule could be day 3 post lunch for any interaction, any additional sessions, what is required based on the assessment so far. And one point specifically to be noted is that the position report is a sample information. So it's not that there is a comprehensive information covering all aspects, all information about the organization. It is a representative information, representative document. So any additional information provided during the interactions as well as during the assessment stage, please consider. Any information provided during the assessment or post-assessment as an outcome of the interaction, please consider for the assessment. At the same time, there is a request to the applicant organization that based on the various interactions, based on the development happen at the site, and whatever information you have provided in the position report, and few cases you would have mentioned that the details will be presented during site assessment. Please ensure that these information which is in additional additional information are provided during the day 1 morning of the consensus discussion so that the assessment team can go through. So the available information, additional information, whatever known, please provide at the opening day, opening session itself, so that the assessment team will get some time to go through, assimilate, discuss, and then make their observations. If many of the informations are provided at the end of the assessment, then it will be very difficult for the assessors to comprehend that, go through that, and also in case if there are any queries further, there is no opportunity to seek clarifications. So it's always beneficial to provide additional information, if any, at the early stage of the assessment than putting it to the final. But of course, if some information is required when asked at the final stage, that you can, if it is available, you can definitely provide later. But this is as a the practice, please ensure that you are providing maximum information at the early stage. And any information, even though it is not part of the position report, no mention of it, if it is pertaining to the organization, and it is certainly it is important to the organization. So consider that data, consider that practice, consider that information, and based on that you conclude whether this is a relevant data for the assessment or not, but no denial of the additional data. So why? Because in the CI Exim Bank in the last year there was a feedback. So some of the potential issues which we are explaining to ensure that we are not getting into the situation again. The applicant has provided some information later stage, but the assessment team was reluctant to accept it because it is not part of the position report. In the on-site assessment, day 4 and day 5, it will be going as per the schedule. And at the end of each day, there will be a briefing and interactions, whatever it is required, you can plan accordingly. And the day 6 and day 7. Day 6, of course, you will definitely start from the day 5 post the assessment, consolidating the report and preparing the presentation. Make the feedback presentation. Have a summary of informations. Go through each and every observations you had. Prepare the PPT presentation, which is the closing meeting presentation in line with the business. So you can see typically you can see mission to strategy to realization and corresponding performance can be the sequence. So to realize the strategy, to realize the vision, what needs to be done will be very clearly coming out in this particular value chain. That will help the applicant organization also to understand and act as quickly as possible. And once the closing meeting presentation is prepared, team is agreeing on various points, have one briefing to the CEO, that is business head. And in case during the assessment, if you have seen some information or some data or some practice which is slightly sensitive, which is not advisable to present in the open forum, you may put it across to the business head, and based on his input, decide whether to present to a larger team or not. If the business head gives a confirmation that okay, yes, it can be presented, go ahead in the larger team. And if the business head feels that okay, it is information which needs to be discussed further, but not necessary to be presented during the closing meeting presentation with a larger team, you can follow accordingly. And the closing meeting presentation is primarily bringing the high level OFIs and strength, which is the view of the assessors based on the information provided, the context they have understood, and the excellence requirements which is specified through the framework. The certain points, if anything factually wrong, please correct it, and that needs to be corrected, there's no doubt. But other points, you may have a different view, it is understandable. Any clarification required from the assessment team, please ask. But however, any discussions or debates on that particular point which is mentioned by the assessor, beyond the clarification, let us avoid it. Points to be clarified, understood better, that to that extent the discussion can be there, but beyond that, going into the debate or justifications as a team, let us avoid. Normally it takes around 45 to 1 hour, and since it is an internal assessment and there are members from the group, unlike the CII Exim Bank assessment process, the feedback can be more specific and even at times prescriptive if the entire team feels so. A kind of consultative, suggestive, prescriptive format is acceptable. At the same time, the request to the applicant, while it is a view from the assessment team consisting of even the internal representatives, the leadership team can debate on that later stage, prioritize the action points, and not necessary that each and every point suggested should be taken in the same way. It can be an alternate too. But kind of consultative, suggestive, or prescriptive statement is acceptable. But beyond that, suppose if you say if you are making it, please ensure that the entire team has full conviction that yes, this will be the solution they have to look at as a first option. If you are suggesting a tool, you can, if you feel that okay, that tool will definitely work based on whatever interaction and the input from the internal team, you can suggest, but ensure that that will be presented as the first preference. And on day 6, further to the feedback, preparing the remaining feedback reports, including leadership report, executive summary, detailed report, and the most important thing, the maturity as represented by a score band. Do objective scoring, use radar attributes, understand the radar better, keep the radar in front of you, and each and every attributes of the radar has to be scored to ensure that it is objective. And score should be through consensus. And while scoring must be in line with the statements articulated, strength and OFIs. The articulated strength and OFIs should reflect the maturity of the organization, and if you do so, it will be easy for the assessment team to arrive at a consensus score. And whenever there is a situation that it is not balanced, the statements and the maturity score given is not reflecting in the same, please revisit either the statements or the score. Look at the statements, whether we have made all the statements which is important to the organization, either as a strength or as an opportunity, or while doing the scoring, have we considered those points or not. The balancing of this between the score and the statement is a must. It is not based on the number of strength or number of YFIs. It is based on the impact of strength and impact of YFIs. So it's not the number, it's the impact decides whether this score band is appropriate or not. So in the scoring, plus plus minus minus indicates those impacts. You can use that effectively and do a score on a 7 attributes of enabler as well as 7 attributes of result, so that it is much more objective. Scoring on a 7 attributes will automatically be more objective than scoring on 3 elements of approach, deployment, assessment, refinement for the enabler. Scoring of 7 attributes will be much more objective than scoring 2 elements of either scope and relevance and usability, or performance in the result. So scoring has to be on attribute wise. And once you score, apply the rule whether the average score is more than or less than the score given for the first attribute, and apply that rule. If it is more, the average is more than the first attribute, score should be limited to the first attribute score. If it is less than the first attribute, then this score is what is reflected in the average should be retained. And once that is done, then the team will be departing to their respective destinations. So while this is the overall process, the next few slides will explain few of the important steps by the assessors and few of the important steps by the applicants to enhance the value of the assessment. So we will discuss the points where the assessment team can take action first, then we will take the applicants' points. There is no doubt that the assessment value can be enhanced by a good preparation. So the preparation can be seen in different stages. One is a data collection. So understand the trends. Trends can be of a global, local, and specific to that industry or sector. When you say global economy trends, global political trends, global business trends, or any other the trends which is applicable, it could be climatic changes, anything applicable to the global level can be understood. Local trends specific to that business and business environment, and something related to the sector and the industry. And it's important to have a good amount of understanding, a good understanding of the business, the model of the organization, business model of the organization. What is the adapted business model of the organization, and what are the challenges, what are the benefits, what are the advantages, and what inputs they have used to arrive at that business, the model. So you can discuss all these at different stages, but understand the business model and the context at which the organization is operating currently. Assessment is primarily based on the input of 2016-17 financial year, but at the same time, during the assessment, definitely at least 2 quarters result will be there. You can also use those results, but primarily it is most of the observations will be based on the last 3 years, and the quarter 1 and quarter 2 information can be used for making your futuristic statements or the action plans. Understanding the strategies, initiatives, and the key processes is very important, without which the assessment will become very difficult. And the third element which is important in the assessment process is the model requirements, having an understanding of the requirements connected to the business, radar, and using the radar with a view to understand the maturity of the organization and understanding the ability of the organization to demonstrate the facts and figures and using that in the process of scoring. And preparation, you have to prepare well. There is no the second thought on that. All these informations are available and you have to prepare, go through the application document, articulate strength and OFIs, participate in various interactions including telecon, and assign whatever the assigned task, please complete so that the assessment will go as per the schedule. And during the interaction, whether within the team or to the applicant, be professional, and while seeking clarifications, ensure that you are a true professional in seeking clarifications. So always seek clarifications than asking the questions. So that will be one behavioral traits which is required. When you seek clarifications, it is always better than asking questions. Seek clarifications will open up the discussion, and asking questions will most likely limit to answering the same point. So the approach you can adapt is more seeking clarifications than asking questions. And be a team player and a contributor. And during interactions, have a clear plan that what kind of questions you are going to ask, who is going to ask. Avoid cross discussions. Avoid debates. And even in consensus meeting, please ensure that you are a team player and going with an objective evidences whenever you have a point to prove. Bring all the evidences which you have seen demonstrated by the applicant either through interaction or through the documentation. Based on that, you may discuss on the score or score band which you have chosen, or your view which you are to discuss, rather than only based on your opinion. And scoring, each criteria to be scored, attribute to be scored, maturity as decided by as demonstrated by the applicant, and also look at the different rules. Radar to be used with the guidance points effectively. The important information which is to be kept in mind: targets and comparison for primarily applicable to key results, while it is desirable for all, but as per the scoring, it is required for both key comparisons, and targets are required for the key results, which is as identified by the applicant as coming from the outcome of the stakeholders' expectation, as coming from the strategy. And preparation before site visit. Scheduling is a very important aspect. You should cover all critical functions, but at the same time should be within the scope of the assessment. There will be activities primarily handled by the corporate. In such cases, the focus will be, while there will be an assessment interaction with the corporate, focus will be more on how the interfacing functions is performing well in favor of the applicant. We may not directly assess the strategy development process of the corporate, but the strategy development process input, what is coming from the corporate, how is it being translated into subsequent unit level strategies, is the question which need to be discussed with the unit level team. While there will be interaction with the corporate on various aspects like HR, marketing, strategy, then on the overall leadership inputs, including CSR, but primarily we need to look at the scope as the applicant operation, and whenever there is a corporate function which is being assessed, primarily look at the applicability, adequacy, and interfacing process. And if you have multi-units, take the representative samples for the visit. Not required all the units to be visited if it is homogeneous. If it is heterogeneous, based on the criticality of the business, one which is very complex, one may be less complex, one is very old, one is less very new, one could be in a different location, which is on a remote location, the rural location, one could be on industrial and a township, which is in the metro. So have a classification of those sites, accordingly you choose. During assessment, time management is important. Seeking clarification and by asking the right points is very important. Being professional throughout the assessment is important. And the big picture is the one which gives you the benefit in the assessment. Rather than going by completely sentence by sentence, word by word of the excellence criteria requirement, use that requirement as a broad level, apply to the unit, and then assess. Make your observation accordingly. A truly model-centric assessment is to be changed to a truly business-centric assessment using these excellence model requirements and radar. So business-centric assessment using the excellence model and the radar is the one which is recommended, and only going by whether they are doing or not doing. That could be one reason by which in few assessments of CA Exim Bank, we are getting the feedback saying that the assessment happened as more as an audit mode than an assessment mode. And create an ambience for the applicant or the representative to speak out. You should be more of a listener, and the applicant should open up and they should explain, elaborate the points. And the feedback, which is the value adding one, which is both the presentation as well as the feedback document, content, balanced approach, and during the presentation don't get into arguments. Objective scoring is very important. That means statements should reflect the maturity level. Comprehensiveness of the final feedback covering all these with the document is important. Since there are few assessors from in each team, there are 50% assessors from the Godrej interior, the internal assessors. It is appropriate to bring certain points which is we can keep in mind while doing the assessment. If you are part of if you are from the Godrej internal assessment team, it is very much applicable. One, because you are part of the team, provide information and clarification on various points which you already know, like many of the corporate policies, guidelines, the way you work. Even though it may not be giving complete information from the document, no need to completely depend on the applicant coordinator or applicant organization to get this insight. It is being followed in all the units. If it is in the same way, while the inputs may be different, but process will be same, you can explain that. Beyond that, any information required, you can seek from the applicant. So some of the policy level, corporate level, the processes, practices can be elaborated further whenever it is required by the internal assessors themselves. This could be including the group and unit level relationship on various aspects. To what extent the freedom is there, what extent the guidelines are there, what extent it is empowerment is there. These are all the generic one which you can discuss first, understand, then further if anything is there we can seek clarification from the applicant. This will save a lot of time and a lot of advantage to the team because the understanding level will be much better. And there will be many common process across the organization. You can also, whenever there is an opportunity, you can elaborate that what is the level and some kind of benchmarking data. If it is objective, you can also bring in. But same time, what is important is an unbiased view. You may have an access to many information because you are part of the group, and few of the information may appear to be an opportunity for the organization where you may have a view that the organization can do better. If it is a fact-based, please bring to the table for discussion in the consensus meeting. Let the team discuss based on the merits, based on the business context, and finally the call to be taken by the team on a consensus basis, whether it is a case where further explanation is required or it is only an opinion. All the opinions, please ensure that you are not coloring your observation based on the previous experiences and the perception which you have already have. You may be from a unit where the one practice may be at a higher level than this particular unit as per your understanding. It's only a matter of time. It's different process will have different levels of maturity. Accordingly, please assess. There is nothing called the right or wrong. It's only an optimum stage. So unbiased view is very important. Anything of your opinion which is not fact-based, which is as a doubt, which is as a suspicion, please don't use that for the assessment. And if you such things, if you present, if you are already have an experience which is fact-based, you can share. But if you have an opinion, if you have a perception which is only your perception, please ensure that you are not discussing those perception-based inputs in the discussion. But if it is a fact-based, experience-based, do discuss, and based on the merits, based on the business context, let the team decide. But if it is an opinion, please ensure that you are not coloring that your further observation as well as the team's view based on this. And it could be possible that in many areas you may be doing better because you are coming from a different unit. The results performance may be better in your unit, or it can be reverse. In your unit, it may be very, very early stages. When you are in assessor, you look at the assessment as it is and assess the condition as is, based on the business context and the model requirements. The comparisons, unless there is a fact-based the data, it's not appropriate to bring to the discussion. And when we are interacting with the applicant team representatives during the various interactions, try to be neutral and try to ensure that you are not discussing too much about your organization, whether it is on a positive side or on a not so positive side, both way. So you are an assessor and your experience and the business information is more important, not based on the unit you are representing. Your past experience of any of the unit being assessed only for enhancing the assessment value, bring to the table because it is already an experience, but no opinion to be formed based on the past experience, because that could be one-off case, it could be an aberration, and look at that, the team view, and then conclude. But if it's only a perception based on your feeling, then don't even bring that. This way, the internal team will contribute to the total team by providing maximum information which is connected to the corporate policies and other additional information. At the same time, be neutral to ensure that the information assessment is done completely in an unbiased way. Few steps for the applicant. Please provide information which is very important. As much information you can provide, the assessment team can comment on the maturity level based on that and take the strength and OFIs accordingly. Look at higher interaction time, optimize the time, and reduce the presentation time. PPT can be used to start the discussion, maybe to communicate some of the very difficult concepts, but many of the interaction should be based on the interaction on teams, confidence, and during that you can provide some data. An applicant team, while elaborate the point which the assessors are seeking clarification. Assessment team have spent enough time, already heard you multiple times, 1 through the document, 2 through the business context key factor discussion, 3 various interactions post the telecon, 4th during the first day of consensus meeting, 5th during the opening meeting, 7th at different levels of strategy and other interactions. So many stages they have heard about you, and your process are already explained in multiple forums in a different way. So please ensure that you are giving clarity to the point where the assessment team is looking for, than elaborating which already having clarity from the assessment team. At times it will be cutting a presentation will be difficult, because this can be viewed by different individual in different way. So to manage the time, focus your presentations, focus your discussion based on the point which the assessment team seeks clarification. And it is a mutual support for managing the time. And in the position report, many of the information would have given only the first level results. Keep the segmented results with you along with the action plan that necessarily will be discussed, because segmentation is one attribute in the scoring. So there will be a discussion on the segmented results and action points, because to ensure that confidence, the segmented results, whatever it is available, please keep it for discussion, and during each interaction touch upon that and give the necessary inputs. And any information required sought during the interactions, the representative along with the team can make a note and provide as soon as possible or during the interaction slot which is already fixed. Logistics, accommodation and safety, no need to tell, it is already you are experienced, and most of the time even the assessors have experienced high level of the hospitality satisfaction, so no need to talk about it. But as a policy, in case if you are traveling to different locations, overnight journey by road after 10 o'clock, especially on highways, to be only on the cities could be possible, but any highways on the remote roads after 10 by road to be avoided. And the infrastructure, obviously it's the same, you have been experiencing the assessment, so whatever it is required for the consensus discussions, they are reporting, please provide appropriate meeting room and ensure that whatever necessary infrastructure is required, whether it is a guest house, whether it is a office room, wherever it is, please ensure that the assessors, if required, they can also work on these stretch towers. While it is highly recommended to be to avoid these stretch towers, but I am sure there will be situations where need to spend extra hours. So the meeting room or whatever you are choosing, please ensure that you are providing this facility too. And in all cases, the assessors at the end, they are expressing their view based on the information provided and the feedback. Whatever they provided, please take it to the context and no need to debate on that. If there is a factual issues, if anything is incorrect, then please highlight and the assessment team will definitely correct that immediately. But otherwise, it is a view, no need to debate on that. You can seek clarifications. And anything which is there from the assessment team at any stage, please do contact us. We will discuss with the senior assessor as well as the respective assessors and do the needful to ensure that we are on the same page, and we discuss based on the facts and figures and give the feedback to the respective assessors based on these inputs to ensure that he conducts himself professionally. So that's all from our side to share a few points, and if there are some points for further discussions, few points we can discuss now. I will go through some of the points. And any further points, anytime during the course of the assessment, we can discuss at the respective stages. So some of the points which is there already for clarification. At the end of each day briefing, the spoke is okay, but some senior assessors insist that each OFI has to be approved by the spoke, including the wording. OFI, as I said, it is OFIs or a strength is a view from the assessors. Based on the facts and figures, if you are making a observation, it's an opportunity OFI, there is no need further endorsement from the applicant, it is an OFI. Probably it is understood in a different way. The all OFIs which you are writing before site visit, based on the documents as well as some interaction before the site visit, necessarily to be clarified before making it as an OFI. So during the discussion, if it is there, some evidences are there, this OFI will go. If there is no evidences, this OFI will stay, and that is already discussed. So there is no separate endorsement required from the applicant on OFIs. If someone has said that, it is not right. But at the same time, please remember this point. All OFIs what we have articulated during pre-site visit report necessarily, mandatorily to be discussed to the respective team members. They, based on the severity, maybe at different levels. Only after satisfactory answer, either yes or no, you can retain or you can remove the OFIs. So that endorsement is only for that, not on the post site visit. Hope the point is clarified. Then other point is, in case of any unprofessional approach from assessors, please share with us. So this is from the So in any case, we will, in this particular case, any input from the assessment team, whoever it is, will be discussed with the corporate team, senior assessor and CII together to ensure that the points are immediately corrected. The one more point on the case is assessors for referring the guideline during assessment site visit. 1 minute, let me understand the point. Please share slide 13 onwards for assessors webinar presentation with assessors. All these slides will be shared, and what I understand is the webinar, whatever we are made today, it is primarily to focus on the assessment process, what is to be done at the Godrej, where a combination of internal and external assessors are there. And it is not part of this Exim Bank, so there is a different schedule. And each unit is going through a different schedule, not a common schedule. And the refresher webinar, which is there for the explaining about the process of the Exim Bank assessment, whatever it is going to complement this, we will add to that and send. See, there is one question on pre-site visit report, the explanation, seeking explanation. See, pre-site visit report is the one report which you have made at 2 stages. One, prior to going to the site through the teleconsensus. Other one is after the initial 2 days of consensus at site, you are not yet started interaction with the applicant. It is only a pre-stage. So consensus report over telecon is the first pre-site visit report. On that you built during the first 2 days on an intensive discussion. That is the pre-site visit report, which is used for pre-site visit scoring and site visit planning. This has to be prepared well so that subsequently the post-site visit reporting will be much more easy. Planning to be done for customer and supplier visit prior to site visit for assessment. Like in any other assessment, the stakeholder visits, multi-unit visits have to be planned in advance as part of the schedule so that the logistics can be arranged, respective members can be made available. All these are all part of the site visit planning. It has to be done in advance, and the draft schedule will be normally 95% accurate and few changes, which is the 5%, which can be used for flexibility. Is it okay if assessors of Godrej meet once or twice, they being at one location and maybe collaborate together? As long as it enhances the overall process and you have sufficient enough time and it is not being seen as a extra time. Its meeting is always beneficial. Sharing within the team is beneficial. That's up to the team to carry out. There is no issue on doing it, and it is up to the team to decide. Now, from the overall perspective of the award administration, the meeting internally is not at all an issue. The only point which at any point in time, especially during the assessment, some of the areas where you feel that, okay, the information, to what extent you can share in case if any of your colleague which is coming from the SSE organization is coming. So let us keep that only as the limit. We will not, during the assessment period, whatever it is to be shared, let it all be shared through the senior assessor to the applicant, but rest within the team you can share and you can meet. If you have any other points, we will be happy to do that response, either responding now or maybe responding later. If you have no other points, then we will conclude this session. Thank you so much for your time, and let us ensure that, okay, we will continuous connect. We will be from CI side, we will also be part of some of the telecons to share our views, any other important points if you have, and we will be in touch with all the assessment team from the secretariat point to ensure that the award, the assessment is going as per the schedule, and any issues are there are brought out at appropriate time. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day and a wonderful assessment. Thank you.